and welcome to everybody's favorite Thursday Player 3 podcast offering, 3 Topic Thursday with Luke and Diz.
And Ben.
We were getting there. We were getting there.
I'm sorry.
You are our third topic. We're going to talk about you for an hour behind your back, so you're going to have to turn around.
I'll just leave.
That's okay. That's fine, too. First of all, let me open up with a little apology. We didn't have our regular Monday episode because all of my friends were dead. I've since brought them back with the dark arts.
Well, thanks.
It's miraculous. We've
appreciate
been
that.
revived.
You're welcome. I have... never mind. Moving on.
He mastered
Anyway.
the Force and the...
So, to make up for it, we have pushed out 3 Topic Thursday to all of our iTunes users this week as well, so that you don't have to go 2 whole weeks without hearing Ben's sultry voice.
Yes, because I know it's hard.
But I am your host, Luke Croft, and alongside me we have Dizzy, that's already his nickname, Cooper,
Hola.
and Benjamin D. Hankins, who is not generally a part of this, but he joined us today
Yep.
to give us a little bit more an at-home feel.
Yeah.
So the way that this works is we've got 3 topics we're going to discuss. We're here live streaming on twitch.tv/player3podcast. You can find us on iTunes, Podbean, Stitcher. You can go to youtube.com/player3podcast and subscribe. But we get together. We talk about 3 different topics. The chat chats along with us. We'll respond somewhat to them. And then we'll just get out of here and we'll probably go eat dinner somewhere. It'll be delicious.
Chicken strips.
Possibly chicken strips. No one knows. With a little barbecue sauce,
Ketchup, dude.
honey mustard, or ketchup, just drenching it in ketchup.
Or mac and cheese.
I don't know what food tastes like.
That is very true. You dip everything in ketchup. All right, you guys ready to get started?
Oh, I'm born ready.
How about you, Ben?
I mean, I
Give you
guess.
another 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah, sure.
All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Topic number 1. Big announcement this week. Assassin's Creed Syndicate
Yes.
revealed.
I'm excited.
All of the details revealed. Not all
All
of
of
the
them?
details.
Whoa, making the table
but a
all
lot of
wobbly.
Some good ones.
But a lot of the details were revealed. You guys are Assassin's Creed fans. I am one of the guys who gets really psyched about it, plays it for 2 hours, and then never touches it again. And that's what's going to happen this year too. I just know it. Mm-hmm. So, Assassin's Creed Syndicate is going to take place in late 19th century London. You are going to play as 2 different characters, Jacob and Evie Fry, who are twins. One is a man, one is a not man, or as many people
Whoa.
would refer to it as a woe man.
Or a less.
No, nope, moving on.
Just kidding. I love females. Especially my wife. I love you, Nicole. Love you.
I'll text her in a moment when you're talking about how you think she's less of a person. Anyway, moving on. But you will be able to play as both of those characters, and it's going to take place in kind of like a gang setting, and in a gang war.
Angera.
But what I want to do, Angela, that is French.
Well, they're kind of
Not even
gangy. I don't know.
English.
They had kind of a gang feel when they.
They were leading a rebellion. It wasn't a gang.
More like the dead rabbit, sir.
Oh my gosh!
Yes,
Seriously,
the dead rabbits are the was the Irish ones? No, they are the Irish ones. What are the other ones?
Irish spring soap.
What's the guy that fought like this? The guy that fought like this. You can't see me if you're watching the iTunes thing, but
If you're watching the iTunes thing.
but he fought like a cat that was like pawing at one of the scrape things.
Yes, Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yes. Yes, him.
What is happening? All right, but anyway, I want to open this up to you guys. You got a chance to experience some of the review material. What are your thoughts? What are things that you're excited about? What are things you're not very excited about? Let's start with you, Diz.
Woo! Thank you. I am completely stoked about it. I read that it's specifically set in 1868, and the reason why they did that is because there was a lot of shifts going on in the world, like the Industrial Revolution, and Darwin just came out with his evolution ideas and whatnot, and there was a lot of stuff going on in that day and age that we haven't seen in a previous Assassin's Creed game, and that has me incredibly excited because they're staying true to the time. I love history, and I love when they bring that into a different medium. And yes,
I just got something funny that happened that is funny because of history.
he passed history class. It's hilarious.
Well, no, I saw a screenshot on Reddit where they have the British Railroad Company. You said it was like 1860 something. This game is
Yes.
supposed to, well, the British Railroad Company wasn't established till like 1948 or something, but they have it in the game,
Oh, they have it in the game.
which is crazy. I just thought it was kind of funny.
Good. But another thing that they have brought in, again with the historical facts, is that you will be fighting a lot of female crime lords, because evidently in the 1860s or around that time, there was an increase in female crime lords.
You said that little factoid to me before the podcast, and I was like, that's really weird. Because that was like a time where females weren't allowed to even wear pants.
Yes, but not a lot of people had rights, period. They said that, what was it? 4 out of 5 men didn't even really have rights. Like, it was very upper class versus middle class, and the upper class made all the decisions and all the rules. And that's something I feel is going to have a big part in this game, is the whole upper class versus lower class.
Well, it kind of makes sense too that your females would be crime lords, because they kind of get dumped on by everybody because they can't do a bunch of stuff, so they have to turn to other means.
Mm-hmm.
And
Crime
because
means.
they want to, nobody suspects a little old lady.
I don't know if they're little old ladies now, but
Have you seen Daredevil yet?
the TV show or the movie?
one on Netflix?
I have not.
Oh, well, I don't know if it's a spoiler or not.
Spoiler alert. Let's just stop.
It's not a spoiler.
If you have to ask,
you meet her in the very beginning.
okay. But if you have to ask, is it a spoiler? I'll just say stop right there.
Oh, okay. Well, then
You
we
have
won't.
to-
We
you
won't.
have to
We won't
ask.
tell you.
But yeah, you understand what I'm saying with that.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah. Okay.
Picking up what you're throwing down.
And I also love that they're bringing in more historical figures, because in the past you've seen Franklin and Blackbeard and all those guys, but they're bringing in Darwin and Dickens. Like, I don't even know how those really coincide, but
Gosh, and Steinbeck.
that's
George Steinbeck
George Steinbeck again.
in his seminal classic, More Miserables. That's an inside joke from us playing Halo the other night, and Ben thinking he knows anything about anything.
I know the most things about the least things.
Empty Vials is referring to this game as the Assassin Order 1868.
Good.
Um,
Gosh. But I also like the direction they're going. I'm probably going to botch this name hardcore, but Mark Alexis Cote?
Sure.
Sounds
French.
Yeah,
Don't like it.
Cotier. He says that we're leaving behind the medieval era. So all we got is modern coming. That
Here-
excites me.
Well, here's the thing. Like, when was the last medieval Assassin's Creed?
Well, I mean, the whole, like you explained it, it's the whole carrying around a sword is no longer
Yeah.
a viable means.
Yeah, that was the interesting thing from the reveal trailer. Was the reveal stream, is they were like, gone are the days in Assassin's Creed where you could have a sword on your hip and not get arrested walking down the street. So I appreciated that. But, I mean, I would argue that revolutionary France isn't medieval, or revolutionary America isn't medieval. Like, long gone have been those days. But yeah, I'm excited about it. I think it's going to be good. What I'm hoping to see in this is them stick with a character for a while. That this isn't the only game where we see Jacob and Evie Fry. That we kind of allow ourselves to get attached to these people, because it's been a while since we've had an Assassin's Creed game that's been really character centric, where we're following like an anthology of stories of one person that we get to play as. So,
But we have an option, though. We have an option this time around.
yeah, we got Jacob, who is the brawler guy who gets in there. I love the brass knuckles. I think that's really awesome. Like, the creative way to do assassin weapons, knowing that you can't just outright carry a sword. And so I've got brass knuckles, and
I hope you
hidden
can use
blade's gonna be important.
I hope you can use that pimp cane, too.
Oh man! In the Game Informer interview, they asked about, "Hey, can you tell us more about the cane?" And he was like, "No, that was a teaser. And the fact that you're asking about it means that we made the right choice in putting it in."
What? You mean it's not even a sword?
They haven't said.
Gosh,
it.
what if
It's a
it
teaser.
is a sword?
Oh,
What if
it's
it's like
gotta be. It's gotta be.
It's gonna be a sword.
what if it's like a gun sword?
Like from Final Fantasy?
Like it shoots swords, or it is gun, or it is a sword, or it is,
That would be a sword gun. That would be a sword gun. A gun sword is just a. I feel like I'm so loud because I'm getting in the red there.
Just keep talking. You're good. You're fine.
A gun sword would be like the
Just back
cane.
off the mic if you
The
think
cane
it's too
turns
loud.
into a like it's you can pull a sword out of it, or you can shoot like a rifle bullet from it.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what kind of munitions are in the 1860s.
Mostly muskets. Had they really developed? Had they crafted
Like
bullets?
the cartridges and stuff?
Well, bullets that weren't
the
just
ballistic
balls. I don't know. I don't know anything about gun history.
Yeah,
We can
I don't
phone my
either.
brother-in-law. He'd be able to tell us.
like the
I'm not gonna call
the what's the
Let's get him on here.
the weaving in the barrels like the
Yeah, that spins it.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea. What are you excited about, Ben?
I always the big thing that makes me excited about Assassin's Creed games is the change in scenery and the change in background for what you're going to be doing. I'm kind of with you. I'm not as like 2 hours and I'm done with it, but after like a week or so, I'm usually either far enough into the story where I know what's going to happen and I don't really care about finishing it, or I finish the story and I'm just trying to find stuff to do within the meta world and I can't really figure out anything that holds my interest long enough. But for me, it's the draw of figuring out what's happening within it.
Mm-hmm.
But once that's done, it's just kind of like, eh. This really interests me, though. I think you talked about earlier about the the theory that this may be like the story you being one of the suspects for Jack the Ripper. Like that, that's really cool
That'd
to
be
me.
legit.
I don't know if you're going to talk about that, so I'll let you talk about that. But that just that whole like era in even like horror writing is just really, really interesting to me. It always has been. So I'm not much of like a steampunk guy like you are, but I do like that side of like the dark British streets. Like you've got somebody lurking in the background killing prostitutes. It's really cool.
It's a beautiful atmosphere. I'm so excited about that. This is the atmosphere. This is the feel of all of it.
Your homeland.
Gritty.
Yeah. Well, I'll expound on the whole idea of the Jack the Ripper thing. Essentially, the theory is that you will, and I don't really know where this originated from, but it apparently has gained some traction, that the Templars are attempting to frame you for the Jack the Ripper murders. And so you are attempting to hunt down. It's funny. In attempting to clear your name from being Jack the Ripper, you're going to leave behind a wake of bodies.
Yes.
You were going to become Jack the Ripper.
It's killing people to kill the bad guy. Yes.
Yeah. So that's really interesting to me. The thing I really think is going to be the thing that allows me to attach myself to this game are the updates they've placed in the traversal system. Just the way that you move throughout the world is going to be completely different, because Assassin's Creed has always leaned heavily on the parkour, and they're still going to have the parkour elements in there, but you are going to have other options to scale buildings and explore the cities. So two major things have been added into the game that are going to make traversal easier. The first thing is a grapple hook, kind of like a scorpion.
It's a
spear,
rope launcher.
where you can like really quickly scale buildings, like kind of like in the Batman Arkham series.
So
You,
less like Spider-Man, hopefully. That'd
Yeah.
be weird. Okay.
yeah, it's not like you're not going to be just shooting and moving throughout. No. You'll just use it to scale buildings and to get to different areas, because sometimes climbing buildings is just very tedious in Assassin's Creed, and that's going to eliminate that.
Well, I hope it's not like a constant thing that you can keep using. I mean, if we want to stay true to what they could have done in the 1860s, I mean, if I use that to get away from a fight, I should stand there and like reel it back in. Then I can shoot it again.
Well, I doubt I doubt that very much. So.
Or maybe even like a consumable item, you know? It doesn't necessarily have to be something that you reel back in, but something that's consumable.
See, I just hope it's something that's always available to me, and I can just keep using it.
It would be very clunky if it wasn't.
Yeah, because I think more important to Assassin's Creed than anything like that tries to just hold true to that era is the fluidity in the movement, and that would break up that fluidity. but being able to go from grapple hook to parkour, grapple hook, parkour more, to assassinating people. I also hope, and I guarantee it will be, that this grapple hook will have a use in combat.
Yes.
That I'll be able to stick enemies with it.
That's
Bring
what
them to me, Scorpion style.
That was one of the funnest things to do in Dying Light was to hit the zombies in the face with your grappling hook. So good.
See,
I never got one.
Give me that satisfaction back. And then the other thing that's going to be added is carriages, where you can go all GTA and jack someone's carriage and
That's super
run
awesome.
throughout the streets and kill a bunch of civilians by running them over with your horse while chasing down a bad guy, which
happens.
completely breaks what Assassin's Creed's all about.
It's causing a lot of commotion.
Well, and the point of going and piecing back together these memories is you only kill those people who deserve to be killed. You don't kill people who are just innocent bystanders, or you get desynced or unsynchronized.
Well, you may have been the kind of guy, though. That may have been your MO, just kill a bunch of random people.
Yeah,
You
we
were
don't know
Jack
these guys'
the Ripper, you know, so-
background.
But doesn't that break the Assassin's Code? Because
Uh,
Jacob, for all intents and purposes, Jacob is an assassin.
Right.
He belongs to the assassins, and part of their ideology is we don't kill people who don't deserve to be killed. So I don't know how they're going to get around that.
that is a good question.
I also think the whole premise of being an assassin is that you take out the people that you're going to take out quietly, and the whole like gang war thing is completely deviates from that idea. When it's just like 250 people like brawls out in the street, that's not very secretive.
Right.
True,
It's
but
not very assassin-like.
But I assume that these twins still have a history and an allegiance. So
Yeah.
my mind just goes back to Gangs of New York. I mean, they each had their own MO, but they still had allegiance to their people.
Did they get Leo DiCaprio to voice
Voice act.
Jacob Fry?
That'd be awesome. Now, are your two characters, are they part of the same faction, or are they like? Because that'd be interesting if they were part of different gangs, and one of them was a leader of one gang and the other was a leader of the other, and you could meet up as an adversary in this game. That would be kind of cool, I think. Because you had the Unity thing, you had the whole love story between a assassin and a Templar, and I wonder if these being twins, if
If there's going to be some creepy love story between
No.
them.
Gosh,
not that
John.
if they're gonna be together and work together on things, or if they're gonna be adversaries, and you can choose which path you want to go down in this game. Because you had the whole
I think
I feel
from
like-
most of the material, it looks like they're working together.
Yeah, I feel like it's interchangeable because if you have the selection of which character, depending on what skill tree you want, you're still playing the exact same
yeah, so that makes sense.
missions. So,
That makes sense.
Let me bring this up real quick. Empty Vials is talking about this game. Let's see. He said, so, can we talk about how Assassin's Creed was supposed to just be a trilogy, and then they got the smell of money and just started churning them out? Thoughts on that?
well, it's something that at the moment sounded like a good decision because when you have that whole idea that because of this, in the real world, obviously, because of this machine, you can go to any time in the past through memories, that really opens up a lot of doors.
Yeah.
But because of that, blood in the water kind of reaction to it, that's why we're getting these not so well built games like Unity. So it was good at first, but now it's just kind of digging a hole.
Well, I wonder too, like if like okay, money's a big deal with it. I'm sure. Like that, I'm sure you see money and you're like, oh yeah, let's keep churning this crap out. Like that's why Mario is. You see a different Mario game, three or four different Mario games every year because they're like Nintendo's like, yeah, cash cow. Let's just throw Mario out there. Somebody will buy it that's got Mario on it. Like that. I feel like Assassin's Creed has turned into that to some extent, but I feel like a big pull from it too. In order to make money, you've got to have people who are interested in purchasing what you're going to make. And I think an outcry from the consumers that are like, hey, you got this thing that can take you back in time anytime. I want to see such and such. I want to see Assassin's Creed in this time. I want to see Assassin's Creed in this time. Because when you look back at the first few Assassin's Creeds, like I know Assassin's Creed 1, you weren't really in a specific you were in a past event time, but you weren't in a very prolific instance within history. I mean, it's a lot of. I think it was Crusade time, but a lot of that's not like concrete.
Same as with the pirate one. None of that was like historically important.
Right. But you've got time like the French Revolution here we had in Unity, which is everybody's like, gosh, that's a great time to be a time period to be involved in, and we're gonna have in pre-industrial Britain, I don't know, 1860s or whatever, is that pre-industrial? I don't know, whatever. You got that time period in Britain. I mean, I know you've been yelling for a long time you want to see a World War II Assassin's Creed where you're like running through the trenches and stuff.
World War
I, excuse me. But I think a big contributing factor to these rehashings of Assassin's Creed is, one's the money, but you got to have people who are willing to purchase these games, and you have consumers who are saying, hey, I want blah de blah, and your outcry, I mean, where it may seem like it's placed in a good spot, can force the development company to say, we want to make money on this, so we're willing to release a subpar game because we know people want to buy something in this time period.
Well, and I think there are far worse offenders in the whole, this series didn't deserve to continue, but just because they wanted to try to make a few extra dollars off of it, they made it again. And Assassin's Creed, the original trilogy of that game, was very well received, and not to restate anything that you guys have said, but the whole universe is just open to so many possibilities, and people didn't just attach themselves to the story of the original Assassin's Creed trilogy, but to the idea of the universe. So why not keep giving that to them? Yeah, you get the benefit of making money, and they churn those things out annually, and we've spoken many times about how that's maybe not necessarily the best way to go about it, but regardless, the games they've put out have been at least decent, and there have been some that have been outright good, and if you're releasing in that volume, that's just the way it's going to be. Not everything's going to be killer. Not everything's going to knock it out of the park.
They can't all be zingers.
That's right. And the more and more, well, just like you said, like there's so many different ways you can spin this story, and you're not attached to just one individual character or one individual scene, and like how many other games can take you anywhere in the world and tell whatever historical story they want to tell.
Exactly. I don't know.
And so I'm okay with them as they continue to develop these games, and it's interesting. And this game is being developed by a totally new studio for Ubisoft, one that has never worked on an Assassin's Creed game. And so the quality of Unity shouldn't necessarily color the way that we look at this game specifically. I think we should hold out and say, and wait for people to review and say, hey, technically this game's running well. But I don't fault them for sticking with a universe that millions of people like.
You can almost even look. I'm sorry, I don't want to.
No, you go ahead.
You can almost even look at these games that have come after the original trilogy to be like,
good point,
almost like extra spin-off games. And I don't hang on. I got a point while I'm saying that. We haven't had an Assassin's Creed 4. There have been names.
Was it Black Flag?
It was considered 4, but it didn't follow that meta narrative. You had Connor within the not Connor. What's his name? What's the guy's name? Was the guy
with names?
I can't remember what his name was now. The guy who was in the Animus originally.
I don't know. Move on.
Gosh, I can't think of what his name is. Anyways, you had him all the way through the trilogy, that looking for the pieces of Eden. Like that was the whole meta narrative of the trilogy at the beginning. Then you got to Black Flag, and it was like you're just some random person. You're not. It's no longer. I think it's Connor, but I don't know if that's right. You're no longer that guy. You're no longer him anymore. So all these games now going forward, and it may be Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. I'm not positive, but
it is.
Okay. After that, even though that's still marketed in that you're not dealing with that same guy from the meta narrative. You're in a different instance. You're not working through his story, trying to find pieces to fight the Templars within his outworld story. You're in different areas with different people working for Abstergo. It's just it's a different kind of meta narrative.
Desmond Miles.
Desmond Miles. There we go.
Thank you, Empty Vials.
Empty Vials also said, I feel like the series deserved to continue. I just feel like it's not really telling a story anymore. It's essentially just random historical events with some random existential cliffhanger that never gets answered. I totally agree with that.
Yes.
The fact that since when's the last time we've stuck with the same guy? Ezio is really the only one, right? Every other game has been a different assassin, and so that's the way that you alleviate that, is stick with a character that we can kind of see a large chunk rather than just this kind of slim vertical slice of, and not feeling like you have to recreate the world all the time. I think it would be awesome if one year they like if they did Syndicate, left it somewhere, and then the development time that they would take trying to develop the world of London, they can just copy and paste that, add some improvements, maybe a little bit, but then spend that whole entire time fleshing out the gameplay and the storytelling within it. Which I think they're probably setting themselves up for that. They're returning a little bit more to the roots of Assassin's Creed because there's not going to be a multiplayer aspect to this game. It's going to be all single player, no co-op, no anything. Even though I think the Jacob and Evie dynamic kind of opens it up to co-op play. They've said we don't want to do that. We want to pour all of our time into the single player, creating the most expansive world that we've ever had. And hopefully that means they're also going to pour as much time, energy, and effort into telling the story as they need, because they're spending so much time creating these beautiful worlds and then not putting stories in them that are worth going back to.
Amen.
Any other thoughts on Assassin's Creed? Is there anything about it that's worrying you?
I don't want to see the same glitch release like Unity had.
I'll second
but
that.
I think them abandoning the co-op and all that stuff and just focusing straight on single player will help them overcome that hurdle. I don't think they have an excuse this time. They almost had an excuse with that being added, but now they don't have an excuse. So
that's my only concern as well. This is the first time that I've been incredibly excited about an Assassin's Creed game since I don't know when. So I'm being hopeful as I can.
Awesome. All right. Moving on to topic number 2.
Topic 2.
So Batman, Arkham Knight. A lot of people are excited about it. Rocksteady Games coming into this generation of consoles, bringing a Batman game that looks freaking awesome. It's got Scarecrow in it. You got all these playable characters that you can play as. You got Batman. You got Nightwing. You got Robin. You got, who am I missing?
Is it in the background?
I think it's Catwoman.
Catwoman, yes.
Catwoman. Batgirl is going to have some DLC available.
With wheelchair or without wheelchair?
Without.
Okay.
It's an origin story. So, anyway, they announced it, so everyone's excited about this game. But a couple weeks they come out, they're like, "Hey, we got a season pass available for $40," and everyone's like, "Oh, okay." You know, reacting like people generally react to a season pass, and then they're like, "What's in it?" And Batman and Rocksteady's like,
just pay for it.
Give us $40 and you'll find out. We can talk a little bit about that, and we can kind of use that as a conduit for the conversation that we're going to have. Here's the thing: DLC is a reality. It's going to happen. Almost any game that hits the shelves nowadays is going to come with some sort of downloadable content to alleviate used game sales, like to narrow that gap between lost revenue from used game sales. And it's just it's a fact of life at this point. And if you want DLC to go away, just pull out your N64 again, because that's the only thing that you're going to be able to play stuff and not worry about.
Those
DLC.
games will never change.
And so DLC is here. It's here to stay. My question is this: how do you want to see companies handle DLC? What are the good ways to do it? What are the bad ways to do it? What are the things that you're like, that's not bad. I'm okay with that. And what are the ways that you're like, that is completely non-typical?
There's almost even like third way, and that's like non-typical in the good way, like way above how they should handle it. But I'll talk about that when I talk.
Oh,
about
okay. I like that. Going above and beyond. That's good.
Yeah.
Let me open that up. Ben.
Yes.
Your thoughts on DLC?
See, I'm one of the guys who I'm not really a big, like, I don't fuss so much about the not getting a full game kind of deal. I like the fact of getting added, like feel like I'm getting added onto my game, like I'm paying for a game and I'm getting more out of it than I would have originally if I didn't buy this extra thing. What I'm not a big fan of is hidden content that is integral to the story of the game. Does that make sense? Like if I can play the whole game that I'm paying $60 for and get the entirety of what I need to know story wise, then I'm okay, and the rest is added on extra. But if I have to buy that extra to know what's happening through the story, I'm not very happy. Along with that, like that, I feel like that's how DLC can be handled badly. That and like a poor price point, like just really a terrible price point, like $40 for 2 extra missions, or like $20 for some skins or something like that. That's just terrible, I think. I think the way that if you
hold on before you move on to how you can do it well.
Yeah.
How can you do it bad?
How can you do it bad?
Yeah.
Well, I like to start from the good and then work my way down.
Oh, okay. I'm
bad.
sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that we had deductive.
We have a structure.
Structure. So
Well, I don't have a structure.
continue in your thought, Ben.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh no, it's not your fault. It's totally Dizzy.
Oh, absolutely. I'm prepared.
I think the norm way of handling DLC now, it seems to come in the season pass form, but not in the way that their name just left me. I'm having a terrible time with names today.
What are you talking about?
Arkham Knight's development
Rocksteady.
team. Rocksteady. Not in the way that they're handling it. Of hey, we got the $40 season pass here. Take this and buy it. We're not going to tell you what's in it. We don't even know what's in it. That's not a good way. But the norm is, it seems like it's going towards a season pass. Of you purchase this this bundle of money, you're going to save about $10-15, and we're going to give you a steady stream of content that comes in monthly or every other month, or on a set schedule. Now, where that can turn bad also is you buy a season pass, and what you have been told is in the season pass ends up not being in the season pass. And
we're looking at you, Destiny.
Yeah, we're looking.
Buy this season pass, you'll get a raid in the Dark Below. Not the Dark Below. What's the House of Wolves?
House of Wolves. Yeah. That's bad business. But I'm not saying that it's the greatest way of handling it, but it is a strong push towards a good direction. Purchase this, you're going to be committed right off the bat. Those of you who buy this, and I think the way Assassin's Creed handled it was great. You bought the season pass to make up for all of the junk that you had to deal with during that game. Those people who didn't buy any DLC got the first DLC package for free, and if you bought the season pass, you got a free Ubisoft game, didn't you?
Yeah, that's because the game was broken.
Well, yeah, but
that wasn't like hey, this is the original direction of what we're gonna do. It was holy crap. There are people in this game that don't have faces because we forgot them.
Right, but solid. Tell me what I'm gonna get. I get a certain amount of money. I give you the money, and I get what you tell me I'm gonna get. That's a good way to handle it, I think. And my extended, way better than should be handled way of DLC now is the way that The Witcher 3 is handling.
There we go.
I think to look at your customers and say, hey, we've got this great product. We want you to play this awesome game that we have, and not only that, all the DLC that we're going to give you, we want to give you. Like,
well, it's not all the DLC. There's going to be expansion packs and stuff, but a lot of the DLC is going to be, and Diz will give some more details on that. But yeah.
But for me, I think that's moving in the above regular, because we just got to accept it. Like now, it's part of, like you said, it's here to stay. It's not going away. You got to just accept it. And I think the season pass model is a good way to make it happen. For me personally, I mean that can be argued.
I'm going to say otherwise.
That's fine. But I think it's I think that's just. It's getting to the norm, and that's going to be kind of like when everybody started saying you got to accept DLC. We're just going to have to start accepting the season pass model too. I feel like it's just going to be a way of life. But go ahead, sir.
Well, let me speak to the DLC thing real quick. My only problem with it is, especially in like Batman's case, or really any company, even Destiny with their season pass, what you're asking someone to do is front money on a product where they haven't even experienced the full finished product of the initial release of it, first of all. But then second of all, what Batman is essentially saying is that we think the DLC that we're going to provide for you after the release of this game is going to be worth 2/3 the amount of what you paid for the full release. And companies rarely deliver $40 extra worth of content in comparison to the original product of the game. And like even with Destiny and the expansion pack, you know, you pay, what was it, $25?
Mm-hmm.
You pay $25 for the first expansion pack, The Dark Below. You get a couple extra story missions. You get a couple extra maps that you can only play on if everybody on your server has those maps, or if you, I think in that you go on a server for the DLC maps. It's like that's not necessarily worth almost half of the price I paid for the full game. Like the value of it doesn't match up.
Well, within that, the season pass for Destiny was what? I think it was like $35. I think it was comparable to. It was a little bit more than buying a DLC, just a single DLC.
Was it $20 per DLC, $35 for both? That may be right. That might have been it.
Because see, what I did was I didn't purchase anything DLC wise when I bought Destiny. But when Dark Below came out, I purchased season pass. I got Dark Below and Wolves, the whatever it's called, House of Wolves.
Yeah.
And to that argument, I would almost say, unless they make it to where you cannot purchase the season pass you can't purchase it after the release of the game, which I can't imagine they would do that. But, just wait if you're nervous about not liking the game. That's what I did with Destiny. So,
yeah.
But I still didn't really like the game enough.
Yeah, right. Go ahead.
I know nothing about Destiny, so I just kind of sat that one out. But I'm not a big fan of the season pass idea, and I'll explain that here right now. I'm waiting for someone to turn the corner.
You're good.
Okay. All right. I think that The Witcher 3 is doing it perfectly. All right. So they're going to give out 16 free DLC items. Most of it seems to be cosmetic, but there also seems to be some missions, some contracts. And they're doing that as kind of a, for a lack of better words, a big old middle finger to companies and games like Borderlands 2, which is, it pains me to say that I got a poo-poo on them. But they're doing that because they don't think that you should be nickel and dimed into buying things that don't enhance the game. It's just cosmetic to make it look different. They don't think you need to pay X amount of dollars to do that. What they want to do is they want to give you DLC that's meaningful, that expands the game and makes it more appealing. So what they're going to do is they're going to release 2 paid DLCs called Hearts of Stone and Blood and Wine that is supposed to add over 30 hours of meaningful gameplay. That's huge because you're still getting something for free. These little things, we love those little things.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm a little ashamed about it, but I did buy some skins for Borderlands 2, even though it was just me playing. It's just those little things that are appealing. So that's why I'm not so big into the season passes, because you really don't know what you're going to get. You're hoping that what comes in the season pass, what the other DLC is going to be meaningful, is going to expand the game. And the reason why I'm so against that is because of something that Far Cry 4 did. Like I said, you want the DLC to be meaningful. So what do? What does Far Cry do? It releases a DLC called Escape from Durgesh. What it is a time trial mission where you have 30 minutes to get from point A to point B, hold your position for 10 minutes, and it's done. That does not change the game. It does not enhance the game. It just says, hey, do what you've been doing this whole time, trying to run from here to there, killing enemies, holding your position, and do it in under 30 minutes. That's all it did. So you paid $30 for the season pass to get a time trial mission.
Mm-hmm.
That's not, I'm not down with that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're hoping that they're going to put out quality DLC. And I don't know if the listeners are like me or if you guys are like me, but if a game says anything, hey, do this race in this amount of time or do this in this amount of time, I dodge it like the plague. I hate it. I don't like that. But that's just me personally. But it's tough for me to spend the money on a season pass to save $5, to save 20% than buying all the DLC. I'd rather wait, see the reviews, and spend the extra couple dollars because I know it's going to be worth it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I'm kind of against season passes. That's why I love what The Witcher is doing. It's paying the fans for believing in them because they got over 1 million pre-orders, which is huge. And I don't, and the DLC I see being bad is Far Cry because you're hyping it, and it's just doesn't meet the mark. And it's, I don't know, something that I'm not on board with yet.
Yeah, and I think for like, I don't know, I've thought about stuff while you guys are talking. I think for me it's like games that I know that my friends play, because that's a big thing that I'm about. Like if I know everybody, if I know you guys are getting the game and you're gonna play it, I'll get it. And I'm a lot more selective with games that I'm not gonna play with you guys because I know that I have to really really like it. But games that I play with you guys, I don't have to necessarily love it a ton. Just kind of playing with you guys makes it fun. So it doesn't. That's kind of a sappy, you know.
But I mean,
But for me, like if I know like Destiny, I wasn't crazy about that game, but I bought the season pass because I knew you guys were going to be playing it, and I knew that eventually I would need to have those DLC packs because at least you had the season pass. I don't know, Seth. I think Seth bought it individually, but for me, it was worth it saving those extra $5 or so because I got both of them and I knew I was going to have to eventually get both of them.
Have to.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to get this Escape from Durgesh.
Right.
I would have already paid for it.
Yeah, and I think for me that's where that's where it's the certain game depends on whether or not I'm down with the season pass for it.
But you use the word need to require to buy the DLC to have Destiny make sense. That wasn't necessary though.
Well, no, I'm saying
action.
I'm saying they have the DLC, so I'll need to have in order to play the DLC with them. In order for them to play the DLC and us play together, I have to have the DLC.
It's like having the maps from the old Halo games. Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much what it is. So that's what makes it a need thing within that. I mean, it may not be necessary to the game.
Makes
but
sense.
Yeah,
I agree.
In
with
order
that.
to the game play is what makes it necessary.
For you to get the full effect that all your pals are, you do it too. I mean, this is the 4th time I've owned Borderlands 2, but I jumped on it because you guys are into it.
Mm-hmm.
I've spent a lot of time thinking about this, guys. I really have, and the thing is I've gone back and forth about what I think about this stuff. And I really think the reason that I struggle with determining like what I think about DLC is because we really got to talk about DLC in 2 different types of games or 2 different areas of games. So you've got single player DLC and you have multiplayer DLC. Mm-hmm. And I think there should be a different philosophy behind those things. So in single player DLC, what I like to see is something meaningful to the story, like you said, or like you said,
mm-hmm.
or like you both said.
We both said it. Yeah, we both said it.
And which is what they've talked about with Batman. They are going to release that Batgirl origin story, mm-hmm. and it's like that's really cool. It's not required for me to understand the main overarching story that's happening here, but it gives me another extra tidbit that I can continue to engross myself in this universe and understand little things about that may help make some connections, but it isn't it isn't necessarily required for me to know what's going on. Mm-hmm. With Destiny's DLC, we are hoping that their story content will add something that helps make sense of everything that's going on, because the original game started with and ended with us being like, wait, that's the end of it?
We're done? Yeah.
We're like, why is everyone clapping? Yes.
I do have a question. Like I said, I know nothing about Destiny. But from what I have learned about Destiny is this. So let's picture a game as a sushi roll. All right? So you got the little pieces.
Okay.
DLC should add sushi to it. But from what I've heard of Destiny is that they had the role, took pieces out and said, hey, you got to pay for these to get it, to understand.
I don't know necessarily. I think something happened with that story. Do I think Activision came in, pieced it apart, and said, "Now we're going to make them pay for these parts"? I don't think so.
Okay.
I think they lost people that were going to add those elements in, and then when they lost them, they were kind of trying to figure out how to get it all in a timely way without having to delay it even further than they'd already delayed it. Because I don't know, and maybe I'm wrong in that, but anyway. So with single-player content, I want stuff that is story-driven, but not particularly necessary for understanding the main story. Like, don't lock people out who don't want to pay after paying $60 for your game already. Don't lock them out of the full experience of the main story, of the characters that they're playing with. Like, but let me buy things that are just going to kind of add a little substance maybe to what I know about these characters that I like. But then multiplayer DLC, and I want to hit on this for a minute because a couple people in the chat have poo-pooed on it, and I want to come to its defense.
Dude, it's
I may defend with you as well.
And that is Evolve. Evolve got a bad rap from I think it was a Polygon article that said that their DLC. The DLC that wasn't included in the season pass was worth like over $150 or something like that. And everyone saw that article within like 30 minutes of it being posted. It was all over the internet. People were tweeting about it. We even tweeted about it without really fact checking it. And it blew up. And then it turns out that a lot of stuff in it was counted twice or 3 times, where like if I have a skin and then that skin was in a skin pack, and then that skin pack was in maybe a bigger package, then it was being counted 3 times. And so it ended up being grossly under what Polygon and other articles were saying that it was. Here's what I like about Evolve's DLC. And here's what I don't like about most other multiplayer DLC is that it divides the community. All of Evolve's DLC was about preference. I don't mind nickel and diming people for skins, because if you don't want to, if you don't think skins are worth paying for, don't pay for them.
Right.
But there are people in Call of Duty who I know love the idea of having a certain kind of camo on their gun, or who love the idea of their soldier wearing a particular thing on their outfit, or and they will pay for that. I will not personally pay for that, but there are people who will. And they'll spend a lot of money on those things in order to have them. And I'm more for that in multiplayer, because if you have some sort of like whiteout digital camo on your gun, it doesn't affect whether or not I can play with you or not. Mm-hmm. But if my DLC is wrapped up in maps, if you buy the DLC and I don't, we can no longer play together on those things. Mm-hmm. And in order for you to even play it on many games, you have to jump onto a server that is specifically designed just for people who have the DLC. And so you're only playing with a portion of the community who thinks that those things are worth spending money on. With Evolve's DLC, none of the stuff that they released was divisive for the community. Was it priced appropriately? Probably not. $15 for a single monster isn't necessarily a good price model. But you can tweak pricing of things. You can reflect on pricing of things. But the cool thing is let's say Ben buys one of those $15 monsters, and I don't buy that $15 monster. I can still play with Ben. Ben can still play as that monster, and it doesn't lock me out just because I haven't paid $15 to look at the monster that he's going to play as and to shoot at the monster he's going to play as. And so Evolve got crapped on a lot for their
DLC,
but they are continually providing free maps.
Yeah.
You know, things that would generally divide and portion a community off. And that game, like, just got its legs cut out from under it right under the gate because there was an article that a bunch of people read that wasn't necessarily true. And so the way I want DLC and multiplayer to work is make it skin-based, or make it things that aren't going to divide the community, and then allow that revenue to fund the maps that you're going to release to everybody. I'm all for that.
Make that not pay to win also.
Well, yeah, I'm not saying that it should be if I spend $5 I get this gun. That was one of the things I felt like everybody let slide in The Last of Us.
Mm-hmm.
Is there were guns that you could not unlock in the game unless you purchased them.
Yeah.
In the multiplayer, and it's like nobody talked about that. Nobody got mad about that. And that to me is one of the cardinal sins of multiplayer gaming, is to allow people to have access to content simply just through purchasing it and have no other means of getting it. And so, yeah, I totally don't think pay to win should exist. But if it's just cosmetic things that a large number of people are going to be willing to pay for, you're going to make your money that will help you support the things that would normally divide the community.
It's
It's like the Vita talk from last week. A passionate man involved got pooped on.
You have. I'm in your camp, Luke. You've solidly convinced me about your stance on DLC. I agree wholeheartedly. I wholeheartedly concur.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I just wanted to let you know that.
Anything else about DLC?
You wrapped it up a nice little bow.
Empty Vial says, but don't you think it was because of the DLC fiasco that they went back and decided to make things for free and give those out as a show of goodwill so they don't just tank as a company? I don't think the maps were ever something that they
never
said they were going to
never put a price point on them. So
it was always the monsters and the other classes of characters.
and more hunters and more skins.
Yeah.
It was always So yeah, I don't know if that's really true. He said an interesting point too before, which we won't go long into it, but he talked about WoW and how the expansion packs, you couldn't buy like the most recent expansion pack. You had to buy all of the expansion packs to be able to play with everybody as normal. You couldn't just buy the base game and then the newest one. And I think that's something that makes it.
But isn't that because of level caps? I don't know much about the WoW universe.
They keep upping it.
But each expansion pack brings a new level cap, and so you can't reach that certain level until you buy that expansion.
Right. Yeah.
Like I said, that I have just shown you my knowledge of WoW.
That's about the extent.
That's it.
That's about the extent of mine also.
That's it. It fits on the back of this receipt right here. All right. Third topic.
Oh, we're there.
Everyone's in love with the. Isn't this a fun format?
Yeah,
Just
there.
three little
Third
things we
topic.
talked
Yeah.
about, and now we're here at the end. The Witcher 3, the Wild Hunt. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. The Witcher : Wild Hunt.
You know what's funny?
Witcher :
You know what's funny? I watched the documentary. Well, I just not to sidetrack as much, but I watched a documentary on it, and they took the 3 from the side of the Witcher and put it down underneath the Witcher and made it like looking like claw marks. So it was less of an intimidating thing to people to say, "Hey, we're buying the third installment of this game. We have to buy 1 and 2," and then just to see it as Wild Hunt. So it's not like they have to know the first 2 to be able to play the third one. I think it's kind of cool. But go ahead.
Yeah. But anyway, it's releasing, and a lot of people are pooping their pants over the fact that there are 200 hours of gameplay.
Me included.
I mean, they're just like 1 second they're here, and then the next second they're like 2 inches higher just because there's so much poop in their pants for 200 hours of gameplay. I think it's cool. I think it's awesome, and I think it's been a big selling point for a lot of people on that game. It's the reason they've reached 1 million pre-orders because a lot of people look at it and they say, 200 hours of gameplay, that's worth $60. Let's go pay for it.
They're saying the Skyrim killer.
Yeah. So, what I want to talk to you guys about, I think it's an appropriate time to have this conversation. We've had this conversation a couple times this year, but never the 3 of us on with microphones in front of our face.
See,
Oh, is that what this is?
That is what that is.
Gosh.
there are 3 of us.
Value in video games.
This is gonna be fun.
This is a topic that I love talking about because this is another veto topic that I just get really passionate about when I'm speaking about it. And so value in video games. What determines value in video games? How does length of game factor into how you value a game? I'll just open it up. Who wants to begin?
I'll talk for a
for
second.
it.
I think for me, and this is like a big. I'm not a big like time person. That's a big deciding factor for me. Like I was all up and I was one of the people just crapping away when I heard about the 200 game hours. I was just you're talking like liquid Hershey all in my pants. Like it was just go time. And but for me, for a game to be valuable, I want a game to be able to do a couple things. I want a game to be able to hold my attention for those 200 plus hours. So a game can last, I don't know, a month and of straight gameplay time, and that's a long time. But if I'm not interested in that game, then it's not valuable to me. Those 200 hours are wasted because I have no interest in what's happening. Number two, it's got to be easily attainable, but not too easily attainable to where I lose interest to the play factor of it. So I've got to be able to catch on pretty quick to how the control schemes and things work, but I don't want it to be so easy to catch on that it's just hack and slash or it's just button mash until the end of the game. And then thirdly, there needs to be a post game for me. There needs to be something that's outside of the story or outside of the intended gameplay that I can do within the game. I.e. GTA, I can go around and just shoot random civilians.
Oh, yes.
Or Pokemon, I can go and breed a bunch of crazy Pokemon and try to get crazy IVs for competitive play and trade a bunch of stuff and catch them all, like the slogan says. Or I'm trying to, like Skyrim, I want to get my character completely leveled out and get as much armor and stuff as I can and just cause a bunch of havoc throughout the Tamriel. And that is that for me, it's not so much about concrete things within a game. It's about those. Can they do those things for me? Is there? And I think most of all is the third one I just said. Like it's got to have a solid post game. Like I've got to be able to do stuff outside of the main story that holds my attention and grasps what I'm doing and keeps me focused, wanting to come back.
Oh, gosh. Well, for me, the number one thing I look into for a game and its value is a game that is constantly improving, something that doesn't stay stagnant. Like that's why I'm huge into Borderlands, because it's something like you are always pushing forward. There's always something better out there. There's always something newer, something more creative, something crazier going on. I love that progression. I love how it's always pushing forward. Length doesn't necessarily matter to me entirely, even though Borderlands 2, if you get all the DLC, it's a pretty long game. But when it comes to something like that, it's about the experience more. Like, there's a lot of indie games nowadays that are catching a lot of hype, a lot of steam behind them that aren't very long, but the experience is what it's about. It's so different, it's so fresh, it's so creative. I love that, but I'm still kind of scared to buy them because I can't trade them in later on. But length isn't incredibly important to me because, like you said, if it's not something that's going to keep my interest, then a month of gameplay doesn't really matter. And
I think, you just maybe jog my head with this, like a universe that feels like something I want to be in. I know with Borderlands, there's that cell shaded place. It just seems like something awesome to always want to come back to and just be a part of. And I come back and I think about it when I'm not playing it, and I'm like, I really want to go do that. And that kind of adds, I think, to it too. But I'm not to jump in your thing.
But yeah, I love the experience. I mean, it's I believe, I don't know, maybe a month ago, Luke said, we are now in a place where video games is a big medium to tell stories. Mm-hmm. It's taken serious now, and that's the experience. I mean,
it's art.
It could be a 10-hour game for $40, but if it's worth the experience, the playthrough, the connections, all this stuff, just so much behind it, it's worth it. Mm-hmm. It's about living in the moment.
What about you, buddy?
Well, let me ask you guys a question with this, because you guys were talking about a world you can push through. It's always getting better. There's always something new that I can and fresh that I can experience within it.
I think I know where you're going.
And you were talking about like Pokemon and Skyrim and all those things. So, in those arguments, where is the space for linear games in those things? Things that are just you move through the story in a very scripted fashion, like The Last of Us, like Uncharted, like those linear games tend to be.
That's the experience, man. It's such a story-driven game. That's the value to me. I didn't finish it. I didn't get very far because it was very difficult for me to play. But
I think for me, this is a flaw. It may not be a flaw. for me, I don't place as much value on games like that, and I inherently don't. And if I have a great experience within it, like Last of Us is one of my all-time favorite games because of the experience I had within it. But if we wouldn't have all been like pumped about it together, and I dare say if it wasn't, I never played the Uncharted series, so like if Last of Us wasn't set in that zombie type of thing that we're all pumped and excited about, I probably wouldn't have given it a chance either, because Uncharted never really did anything for me because of the scriptedness of it. Now, another Naughty Dog game that I really loved that was entirely scripted was Jak and Daxter.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of free world roaming within it. You could do crazy stuff and stuff like that, but majority of the game was scripted. For me, it's just the value's not placed as solidly in games that I can't do things outside of the script of what's happening.
Gosh, I see 2 comments I would love to expound on, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Empty Vials says, went to see Age of Ultron for $18, which is $9 an hour. Exactly. We go to watch a movie to experience it. We're spending X amount of dollars, so for something that we just do once, So playing a game for the experience for $60 is the same thing. You're still living in it, still, experiencing it. And then Milky won my heart for mentioning L.A. Noire being storytelling art. That game, it does have free roam, but it is linear. Like you continue on with these progressively getting harder missions, and gosh, spectacular.
And I don't want to step on Luke's cookies because he hadn't got to talk
ahead,
yet.
man.
But but I like, for me, I tend to shy away from going to movie theaters because it's $9 an hour for a movie. If I know it's a really awesome movie, I'll wait till it's Redbox, and then I'll go and pay $1 for it, and then if I really like it, I'll go buy it, so I can experience that over and over again. And it's the same kind of thing within video games. Like, we've gotten to this point now where we stopped pre-orders because we don't want to buy a game that we don't know anything about before and pay $60 for somebody to use that for development costs when we have no idea what's going to actually happen with the game. And for me, we take this route of watch Let's Plays, watch reviews of when it comes out, and then if we really like it, go buy the game. You can experience it on a constant level. Now, we didn't do that with Last of Us because we were still in the pre-order side of things. But for me, it's more of a if I'm going to love the experience, I'll go purchase it. Just like I love Star Wars. Because of that, I bought the entire anthology of Star Wars because I love Star Wars and I want to experience it over and over and over again. Now would I go buy whatever tickets are now, $10 ticket, and watch it over and over and over again? No, I would go buy the DVD because I want to own it and have it, and it's value to me, but to have that linear time of a story. But is my value solely placed in a game that is strictly linear? No. If I love the experience of the linear game, then yeah, I'm going to go purchase that game. Or if I think I'm going to be really interested in what the universe has to offer, then yeah. But for me, inherent value is placed in a game that I can not so much a game that's long, but a game that I can do more than just what the writer of the game is getting me to do. Does that make sense? It's the outside of the box kind of deal.
Out of the box. Out of the box.
When it comes to value in video games, see, I'm not a replay it kind of guy. Like a guy who's going to go back and play something I've beat again. I don't do that with movies. I don't do that with video games. I don't do that with TV shows very often. Or books I've read, I just don't go back and try to re-experience those things. I get it once and I'm good. I did go back and replay The Last of Us. I have gone back and rewatched the Game of Thrones. But it's something that I have to really, really love in order for me to go back and play it. So for me, when we're talking about length of game and 200 hours of gameplay or whatever like that, or someone already mentioned the Order 1886 which is where this conversation originated for us. Mm-hmm. I have to look at those things different because I don't necessarily see value in my ability to go back and redo it. Even if it's like an open world game like Skyrim that you can play different ways through every time you go. If I do it once, I don't want to go back and do it again. And so for me, I bought the Order 1886 day one when it came out because I watched streams of it. it looked like something that I was going to enjoy. And I have a lot of problems with the Order 1886, a ton of problems. None of those problems is length of game. I beat the game in about 5.5 hours, and I didn't feel slighted because of the length of the game. I felt slighted by the fact that it held my hand through it. I felt slighted by the fact that all the major moments of the game were basically shown during E3 and other press conferences that it have. I felt slighted by the fact that the most pivotal moments of the game were reduced to QuickTime events. But I didn't have any problem with the fact that it took me 5.5 hours to beat it, and I paid $60 for it. The way this conversation really kind of took off for me was I was listening to I guest hosted that game show a couple weeks ago, and the way that came about was a few weeks before that they had this very same discussion. And one of the guys on there was talking about how, well, I just feel like before a game can sell for $60, it has to be X amount of hours long. I think he said 20. And I was like, that just baffles me. And like in the YouTube comments, people were agreeing, and in the Facebook comments, people were agreeing, and I was just like, that makes absolutely no sense to have an argument that direction, because first of all, we have to define what we're talking about when we talk about value. When I hear value, it means that I got out what I put in for that thing. And so he was like, in order for a game to be $60, it has to be 20 hours long. And it's like, that's all fine and dandy if you want to think that way. But what happens when a game like The Witcher is 200 hours long?
Yeah.
Is it then okay for them to charge 10 times as much as they charge for a $20 game? Is it okay for them to charge $600 for The Witcher? Would it be okay for them to charge $150 for The Witcher because of how long it is? If $20 is all it takes to get the value out of a game, then how butthurt would you be if Bethesda came out and was like, Fallout 4 is going to be $149 upon release?
Right.
The whole weight of the internet would come crashing down on Bethesda.
Burn Bethesda down.
Yeah. And so my thing about it is I would rather something. Value is so subjective, and we've seen that from your definition of value, from your definition of value, from my definition of value that I'm about to give, because I hear The Witcher 3 is 200 hours long, and I'm like I throw up being overwhelmed by the amount of content, because I don't have 200 hours to sit down and play through a video game. I don't. Now, I will probably end up getting The Witcher and playing through the main story, which will probably take about 25, 30 hours. But I'm not going to sit and do every side quest probably, because I have other games I want to play. I don't want to pour 200. The only game I really pour 200 hours into are sports games. And I mean, joke me all you want for that, because I know sports games is kind of like not considered gaming by a lot of people. But I'll pour 200 hours into that. But I don't want to. I get bored with 200 hours of gameplay in anything. And it just becomes overwhelming when there's just all these little icons on a map for me to go. And so for me, if the Order 1886 would have been a tight 6-hour experience where I really felt immersed into the world, where the storytelling wasn't bland and predictable, where the twist at the end is revealed in the name of the character who was involved in the twist in the end, when all of the major points in it are QuickTime events, like if they would have got that stuff right, 5.5 hours is fine.
Yeah.
Because for me, what's valuable is the experience of a game. And, you talked about a movie being 2 hours long and you're paying $18 to go see it. And it's like, well, why do we say that a video game that I am much more directly involved in going through has to be $2 an hour, $3 an hour before I consider it to be value? And so for me, the value rests in it being tight, a tight experience, an immersive world with characters that draw me in, if we're talking about story-based games. Or if it's a multiplayer game, a game that just has really good mechanics in it. That's why Destiny got so much of my time, not because it was necessarily a great game, but because it was a great gameplay game. The gunplay in that game is not topped by any other shooter out there.
Yeah, it's great.
And then, obviously, sports games. I'll just dump my time into nonstop. There are sports games, though, that I've poured 150 hours into that I would say weren't worth the $60 I spent on them.
Yeah.
But, like, Madden's the only thing I have available. and there's been times where it's been crap, and I just play it because it's my only option. So
one thing that comes to my mind, like, and I just thought about it when you're describing all of our different archetypes with how we had place value on things. You think about somebody who goes to an auction and they buy this painting that they paid $500,000 for or something, and it looks like somebody threw up on it, and you're like, how in the world would they pay $500,000 for something like that? I could do that. It looks like what I did in the bathroom this morning. You
A lot more red though.
for them, they got excellent value out of that painting. They love that what they wanted to buy was great, and they love it, and it's their value is fulfilled within that painting. For me, I would assume kill myself and pay $500,000 for a painting that's at some auction because I have no desire to own that thing, and I place no value on that painting. So value is kind of something that is very internal. It's something that you know when you're getting value out of a game. You know when something is valuable to you, and you can't quantify it within any certain structure. You can't say just because it's X hours long, or it has X amount of story, or it's the best, it does the best at this, or it does the best at that, or it's a certain genre. You can't place value solely on those things. You have to place value on, okay, how is, and I think that probably your definition of it, probably Dizzy probably explains it the best, is how's my experience with this? How do I attach myself to this? Is it something that I enjoy, whether that be going through it one time and never doing it again, or whether it be going through it countless times and replaying it over and over again, or playing it one time and spending a month long worth of gameplay on it. Your value is placed in how you feel about it and how it emotionally attaches you to it. So I'd say don't get hung up on it needs to be a certain way.
Yeah, and the thing is a lot of people are like, well, that game's not worth $60. And newsflash, no one's making you pay $60 for it.
Right.
Number one, you don't have to buy it at all. Number two, you can wait to pay for it at a price where you feel like it matches the value. A lot of people are like, the order's only worth $30. You can go buy it for $30 now. You can go find it on a used shelf for somewhere around $30. I bought it for $60 and sold it to a friend of mine for $40 because it was going to be cheaper than what he'd have to pay for, and it was going to be more than what I'd get in for trade value. You can trade in games you're not playing towards games and pay less for them. There are thousands of options. You can wait for it to come to GameFly or go into a Redbox, or you could just watch a live stream of it and
you
get
could
the
steal
experience
it.
of the story. You could bootleg it. Don't do anything. Don't bootleg.
We're not
Don't do
advocating that.
Don't do that.
And so, for me, it's like in gaming especially, there is going to be a time where you can pay for this at the point that you feel like it's worth it. Mm-hmm. And so we can't really try to dictate, because here's the thing: there have been good games that are $20. There have been terrible games that have been $60. Games far, far worse than the Order 1886. And just because a game is long doesn't necessarily mean it's good.
Mm-hmm.
You know. And I think it was Empty Vials who's been making great points throughout this whole entire podcast. We should just bring him in. He said if the Order 1886 was 20 hours long, people would have killed themselves of boredom.
Yeah,
and it's like that's absolutely true. One of the biggest gripes about Alien Isolation was that it was 6 hours longer than it needed to be.
Mm-hmm.
That it would have been a good game if it would have ended where much shorter than it went. And there have been short games that cost $60 that people don't care to pay that much for. Portal 2 was $55 when it came out, and it takes 4 hours to complete. Nobody was complaining.
Because it's a great game.
It's a great game. And so, for me, length has absolutely nothing to do with the value of games. Because there are games that I've put time into and thought, well, I'd have paid more than $60 for that. And then there's games I paid for that I'm like, I shouldn't have spent $60 on that. And it's like, it's a wash in the end.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So yeah,
Beautiful.
Anything else? Value in games? You done?
No, yeah, I'm
You
good.
just saved me.
Yeah.
That was good.
All right. Well, we're gonna get out of here. We're gonna stick around on the Twitch stream, and we're gonna be back next week with our regular episode of Player 3 Podcast. It was just a perfect storm this week. Also, I'm now a freelance writer at Gizarama.com.
Woohoo.
I almost said Gizarama.com. And I have a
Gizarama.com.
couple articles up there already, just some brief news things. And I've got an opinion piece about value in gaming going up on there now. So check out Gizarama.com and find me, Luke Croft, on there. For Dizzy Cooper, Ben Hankins, I'm Luke Croft. This was 3 Topic Thursday.
A 3 Topic Thursday.
We have no jingles on 3 Topic Thursday. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Okay.
All right.
Break.
Let me, it's Gizzo.
3 Topic Thursday.